Here is one of those great times to demonstrate how much that astrology and real life really do come into play. And that's happening to me right now while Uranus is in my sixth house of my work, my everyday life. And sometimes that can be two places at the same time, and that's what's going on. But this whole message was letting me know that I really had to change what I did on my daily basis, but it's also affecting what decision I would make about where I live. And so I wanted to have a more long term understanding and set me on this journey. Well, I ended up getting into some really great times at this wonderful spring, but also that I was able to get a few injuries from like bed bugs, and I had quite a moment with the person who assumably owns the place but wanted to defend the whole bed bugs, and it was really bad. I to tell you, my face is still swollen, but it really, instead of me really calling the city and blah blah blah, because he really didn't want to refund me and had all kinds of crazy things that he was saying to deflect from the situation about who I was personally. What a crazy thing. But I took it analytically and I decided, let me just get into this. Well, it really made me believe that we really are dealing with something in life here as I make these changes, that it's come to my attention how bad it's been for just an ordinary person without preparation to make any kind of changes to their life, and how really all of this inflation situation is still going on, and that people are using the word market price to sort of like stay afloat of whatever is going on, but it's leading to something else, and that something else is something people don't want to imagine, the word homeless. And it can happen to someone just by the small process that's going on every day.
Traffic. I am still hustling with the traffic. What else we gonna do, right? So today I want to talk about, why are people homeless? Well, people are homeless because the wonderful formula that they have for us and for a lot of people and for lucrative investments is that the housing that are for inhabitants of the earth are a big time business, and therefore it becomes competitive when people are always trying to get a market price out of something. And so this whole thing is a whole big loop where even the city themselves participate.
At the light, turn left on Northeast 172nd Street. Then at the next light, you'll turn right.
Oh, missed that. So what we're having here now is that when these cities decide to change their name and add like a beach to it just because of the fact that they would like to really have more value for their existence, which is just an organization, what you're happening is that you're opening the door to gentrification. And gentrification is so ruthless that people, and I know this is going to be controversial, but it's happening, and I've seen it with my own eyes, and I don't know the cause of it, but a wonderful family that lived in a upcoming neighborhood, who's lived there for a very long time, were no longer how can I put this without sounding a certain way? They weren't the trend of people that are newly moving into this place. So this person suddenly had a fire, and they've lived there for so many years. I want to say that accidents really do happen, but I think that they happen much more when a lot of people can really capitalize on the loss of this, because when these people try to return to what they need to, it will become very unaffordable. Then they would actually have to have no choice but to, give it all back to maybe I don't know if they have still have a loan or something like that.
Then at the next light,
It's a
you'll
big
turn
loss for these people. And someone else swoops it up, right? Someone else who has like triple, four times the amount of money. And now you know why people are homeless. Now, some people are legitimately not really in a stable position because of decisions that they make, because maybe their health status doesn't really help them either, because you have to work. Also, if you're not in a complete sane mind, you're probably not able to keep up with your living. And so now we find that there's almost like nothing for people. People with college degrees aren't really able to even make enough money to factor what the cost of living would be today. And these people really don't want a golf course, okay? They want food on their table. And when everyone's like having a good time, just remember, you're unhousing a lot of people. And this is listen, people have been unhousing nature for quite some time, and they haven't been complaining, right? But we did see that in 2020 that animals were roaming New York City and trucking down the streets, and it'll probably be their first and last time that happens, unless the world really comes to an end. But that's my rant today. My rant today is that housing is a kind of business that's putting people out of existence, and you should really consider that. I know that everybody wants to get a wonderful commercial real estate license just because it's going to be, or a regular license just because it's a wonderful little pastime hobby and you would get it. But you're also participating in the gentrification, because you're also demanding that someone who pays the highest price, regardless of the price of the value of that property, to be much more. And I think it's very it's unfair at the most, because we're talking about housing. We're not talking about, stop making it a business. Simple. Part 2. And so when the person has really come to the understanding that they're not going to have a place to live, and they actually then have to have a place of storage to then put their things in, the storage companies are having wonderful move-in promotions because they need to drum up the business. But what they do right after is that they double the price, or they have a crazy price like right afterwards. And their biggest excuse is that, well, we're just trying to get it to market price. Again, I mean, how many people are working against people to make them poor and homeless? I hope that you can connect the dots, because that's what's really going on. And now the people would have to give away the little bit of things, or putting the things in there is that worth even the storage in the first place. So you realize that place on earth is very expensive. How about going to the beach? You're going to pay about $25 or more for your parking, because you're not going to go there for 30 minutes. And there is a price to park for the beach, which is supposed to be free. And you could be towed off a property that belongs to someone else, where the water's hitting. So there's no break for anyone who really is deciding that they're gonna somehow or the other do something with themselves to gather up the cost of living in today's society. It's something to think about.